What's poppin', y'all? The Weeknd as we know him, or the act, is probably over, or will be over within a very short time period. Weeknd recently did an interview on W Magazine where he said the following about the stress of keeping up as The Weeknd. Tesfaye's identity crisis was about more than juggling two characters in one night. This is in reference to him talking about his experience of having to change into Tedros and The Weeknd, which Tedros is a character that he had on one of his albums, and then The Weeknd is just in general. And he talks about his performance, his characters, and that's where the identity crisis, well, not the identity crisis, but just the juggling of characters is a little bit stressful. He says, I'm going through a cathartic path right now. It's getting to a place in a time where I'm getting ready to close the Weeknd chapter. I'll still make music, maybe as Abel, maybe as The Weeknd, but I still want to kill The Weeknd, and I will. Eventually. I'm definitely trying to shed that skin and be reborn. And in reference to his actual physical self suffering from what his character was doing, he said, it was tough to go from one head to another. Then after the concert, I lost my voice. No voice came out at all. That's never happened before. My theory is that I forgot how to sing because I was playing Tedros, a character who doesn't know how to sing. I may be looking too deeply into this, but it was terrifying. As The Weeknd, I've never skipped a concert. I performed with the flu. I'll die on that stage. But there was something very complicated going on with my mind at that moment. If you guys recall, the artist or Pink Guy, also known as Joji, previously known as Filthy Frank, he talked about this a little bit. And I personally thought it was just some, I wouldn't say BS, but I thought it was just a reason to get people off his back for quitting his old type of content. To give some more detail on it, he used to play this crazy character, which of course he was nothing like in real life. And then he dropped a video, I believe, that he deleted very soon after, where he was talking about how it was affecting him negatively and he was getting seizures from playing the role, some stress-induced seizures. He said it was some sort of neurological disorder, and the way that people saw him in real life was the character that he portrayed online, and that disconnect affected him health-wise. And I'm not going to lie, I thought this was probably just, hey, he wants a good reason so people don't attack him and hound him, because the fan base that he had, they're crazy in terms of they're going to be on you where they're going to be like, yo, you ditched the music, why'd you stop? But if you give a reason that's kind of up in the air, like a health reason, and people did hate on him for that video, which is why he took it down. But I believe it now, especially seeing The Weeknd. I think it's just that pressure of you're maintaining a completely different personality. Like, for example, if you guys recall when The Dark Knight came out and Heath Ledger was talking about his experience of getting into character to play the role on the movie, well, people know that Heath Ledger is just an actor, and he only has to play that act and get ready for the role of the movie. Then he gets to go back to his regular life. So it's a period of time, let's say maybe a year, maybe less than a year, 9 months, maybe a little bit more than a year, 12 months, 14 months or so. But with guys like Joji, for example, or Filthy Frank, it's hard to take him seriously when he wanted to transition into music when that's who they saw him as, which is why I think it's so impressive what he's been able to do. It's one of the most impressive things to ever happen to ever be done by an internet personality, not to happen to him. He really did make that happen. But if you're playing that character, people kind of that watch YouTube, they believe that's you. So then when he meets people, they expect him to act a certain way, and he's not that way. He's just an actor, and he's playing this role perpetually. You don't know when it's going to stop. Like The Weeknd, for example, that's a character. That's not Abel, for instance. We don't know what he's really like. He could be boring. Honestly, I personally think the reason why he didn't do a lot of interviews is there isn't a lot to say. He's better expressed through his character, through his music, through his lyrics, etc. Which is a beautiful thing. I think we need more artists like that. We have enough artists right now that are quote-unquote real. And I'm not saying that always necessarily correlates to them being involved in crime, but characters that are able to separate their personal life from the music, I think that's a beautiful thing, especially when they have like these characters that they create in these worlds that they manufacture as well. So I think The Weeknd is probably suffering from that same thing. For him to, I believe that he could lose his voice because he's playing a character that doesn't have a voice. It makes sense. Do I know if it makes sense, quote unquote, scientifically? No, but I do believe the way you think can have an effect on the way you physically feel and potentially illness or whatever the case may be. And I think he's done playing the character of The Weeknd, or the pressure of playing that character for The Weeknd that he's been doing for well over a decade now. Now, the question is, what is he going to change into? Is it going to be like shedding it, maybe like putting the costume, I guess, or the uniform or the suit, like The Weeknd bat suit, like just putting it on the coat rack and then pulling it out whenever he wants to be The Weeknd? I think that would be pretty dope. Is he going to make music as his regular self or his regular name, which is what he recently changed his stuff to on Instagram? Is he going to pull out different characters when he wants different styles of music? I think this is kind of, wouldn't say unexplored territory, because we did have people like, who was Ziggy Stardust? I'm actually forgetting his original name right now. David Bowie. He was creating these kind of soundscapes with different characters and different outfits and all of that. So he was an individual that did this as well. I do think this is a good evolution of The Weeknd, but the question is too, if he's going to retire The Weeknd, this ties back to kind of like a music business topic that we've seen going on a lot. Does that mean he might be prepping himself to sell The Weeknd catalog? Because think how much the Weeknd catalog is going to be worth. Number one, because The Weeknd owns, I believe, at least 50% of his catalog, because he got a joint venture deal early on because he just had such a good situation. You can watch my video on that. It's, I believe, my Law 20 video, kind of like The Weeknd OVO. I'll link it somewhere. So you can watch that one. It kind of explains that situation. But he got a really good deal. So he would get a big cut and slice of the portion of his catalog that he would sell, considering he's also one of the most listened to artists on Spotify. And by one of the most, I mean like top 5, if not the most. He was the first one to ever hit 100 million monthly listeners on Spotify. So he streams incredibly well. And if it's putting a close to the chapter where, hey, The Weeknd music is over, it's able now, that makes it even more worth it, because it's kind of like when an artist dies. If an artist dies, their art is already worth more, just because, especially if they were already successful. So perhaps it's putting himself in a position to potentially sell and get a huge payday and then continue making music under whatever circumstances he wants with the new character. That's a possibility. I think that would be a brilliant move to make, and I don't even want to imagine the amount. It would have to be in the hundreds of millions for The Weeknd's catalog to sell. Just his portion of it. Potentially even like a big billion, if we're keeping it real. If Drake got a deal for supposedly $400 million for future projects, then it would only make sense that for old projects, which are worth more than future projects because there's guaranteed stats behind them and nostalgia factor, etc., we're going to be listening to The Weeknd until we die, most likely, especially anyone that grew up in this era. It's got to be worth just as much, if not more, because he's bigger or as big as The Weeknd. Or, no, I believe he's bigger than Drake. And is his catalog as deep? That's another question we can probably deduct. Maybe, yes, no, not really. But I would say it's wider spreading. So there's so much opportunities to make money off of The Weeknd catalog. But that's just something that my brain kind of just wanders into that direction of the potential of selling the catalog, and especially coinciding with The Weeknd stopping his character. But I'm really interested to see in what The Weeknd does next. He's one of those people that I just listen to absolutely everything he puts out. I love his music. I love his art. I love how he separates the art from his personal life, and he kind of just doesn't really give us much of his personal life at all. It's really refreshing. What do you guys think? Is he being dramatic, or do you think he might actually just close The Weeknd? And what do you believe that The Weeknd being over means? Is it the change of style of music? Is it what aspects are going to happen? Because let's keep it real, The Weeknd is a lot older now. He's still young, but he's older now than when he was first making that music in 2011 to 2017. So what do you guys think that means? Let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for watching. Peace.